So Peace Naturals coming up. Biggest interview of the year for us. Smash, you ready for it?
Pardon?
Are you ready for this interview?
Yes.
Excellent. I mean, so Mark did check in.
So I got him on Skype and just setting up a shot now?
Excellent.
Say hi.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hello.
How
are you doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So, tell us about Peace Naturals. Let's get it going.
Where to start? Peace Naturals is one of the first and hopefully one of the best medicinal cannabis producers in Canada. Very exciting project and a really outstanding group of people to work with to serve and help a bunch of Canadians in need.
Now, you got into this area of marijuana, medical marijuana. You got into the area through, I read your bio, through your parents. So you have a connection to medical marijuana, is that correct?
I'm sorry, ask me again, I didn't understand the question.
You started learning about medical marijuana in 2010 to treat your parents?
Yes.
Can you tell me how that came about and how it led to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. It was my mom and dad keep a place in Palm Springs, California. They essentially retired there. And mom had, she was having elective surgery fixing a shoulder and had contracted a blood disease in the hospital. Long story short, but for the miracles of modern medicine, she's not with us. So there were a number of trips down there, and there was one time where I was there with both my older brothers, and we had looked in the medicine cabinet, and there were just a lot of things, and I appreciate that you go to different doctors for different ailments, but there was a concern level. We were also very far away from my parents, and I had a couple of friends that were compassionate medicinal cannabis growers, and took advantage of an opportunity to both repatriate my parents and also help them minimize the amount of different pills and drugs that they were taking. So it was dual purpose, and it ended up, I really had a focus on my mom and truly had a spectacular result with my dad. Mom, a little less spectacular, but she truly wasn't open-minded. But my dad had really awesome results.
So, does that, has that created a different experience for you when you come to helping, to starting this company for medical marijuana because of your connection to your parents? You saw how it worked, or?
That was certainly a starting point, or the starting point. The big influence and what created Peace Naturals was my travels to Israel. And certainly some amazing people I met there, the guys from Tikkun Olam, really amazing growers, very passionate about helping people, but they've been front line working with patients in Israel, clients in Israel, and a lot of PTSD, but they had one particular project that a number of the people in Tikkun Olam worked on, which was a nursing home. And my grandfather, may rest in peace, unfortunately ended his life in a nursing home. And I hope I don't have to be in a place like that. And it was a very nice place, but the energy was terrible, and people screaming and truly in pain, and all the other issues that go along with being sick and elderly. And the silence and the energy in this nursing home was deafening. It was just beautiful. And then I met a lot of really interesting people, and you go into the lunchroom and you hear clattering of forks and spoons on dishes and bowls, and people are eating. And when you eat, you're satiated. So there was truly what cannabis had done in this nursing home with 38 out of 41 people was beyond extraordinary. And I, for the first time, truly understood the medicinal values of cannabis.
So, well, that's a great introduction, I think, for everybody. Do you feel that because of the way the medical marijuana program, there's some misconceptions in that companies have been, made to look like the bad guy at this moment or the boogeyman? Or do you feel like people are still approaching you sort of tentatively because you are one of, 3 licensed providers in Canada at the moment?
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the others are doing. I know that the guys at Metrum, I think they're about ready to go. And I don't know what CandyMed is doing. I know that they're shipping, but yeah, I think to your point, Matt, we've fielded over 6,000 phone calls. There's been a vocal minority that have really, let us have it. But we get up and we do a really good job every day, and I think we're certainly getting some very positive reviews with respect to the values and the consistency of the cannabis. But there's a whole nother end to this business, which is taking phone calls, properly documenting information, keeping people's privacy safe. You can't just, our original idea of how to do this is, you get this software program, it's in the cloud, but if you do it in a cloud, odds are that cloud's in the U.S. Then that DEA has access to the information. And this is before there was the issues of people's medical documents, potentially being accessed by U.S. officials. And again, no disrespect to anybody, but we figured out and learned a way to keep everything safe within our backyard, whether on the property or off-site, but everything within Canada to have that privacy protection. And that's just one element of the stuff that we've learned to be a very good resource for people to go to. And yeah, there's been the odd, or a fair share of negativity, but all of the good has so far outweighed the bad. We know we've helped a lot of people. We've had a lot of great feedback. And, we know it'll continue this way. Excellent.
How many, let's talk about that part where the learning curve involved in this seems rather steep. You have a bit of an interesting background in the food service sector, if I read that correctly. Is that true?
Functional food. So I've been involved in industrial hemp for a long time. Myself and my wife Anne are responsible for introducing chia to Canada. So we've been around introducing healthier options to people, as well as providing people with information without making false structure function claims, without making Schedule A claims. So we're doing everything that we can to provide people with information and being compliant and being a great value. And I think we've done that in our business up until now for 7 years. And go forward with Peace Naturals. It is our plan. It's a sustainable business model.
It does seem to be. I mean, there is a lot of people talking about how medical marijuana in Canada seems to be a sustainable business. There's a lot of standard operating procedures. Your company, how many? What was the development phase of? Taking sort of these ideas and developing a standard operating procedure that met the government standards. Is that to me seems to be the biggest challenge. A lot of the mom and pops, you are a small company, are going to have jumping through that hoop. What are the challenges you had with creating a standard operating procedure that made it through those hoops?
The application process. Here, I'll show you the application. So that's the application. So, as far as thickness is concerned and what it is, but our process and creating an SOP, it's funny that it's not easy to do. Why? Because somebody that has spent a great deal of time over the last 10 to 20 years that anybody within the cannabis community would respect for creating their own varieties, domesticating them, making them consistent, because that is the function of medicine. These people had to do their time, and it was very important for this community to not talk about it. So it truly was a very long process. If I look at it, for how did we do it? But once we were able to say, okay, this is truly what we do and everything documented, to create standard operating procedure for everything we do. It quite honestly, Matt, took 6 months, and there's 4 of us that we worked every day to walk the steps through, but be certain to make sure that everything in our application, we really do. We don't just say we do it. We don't just kind of, it sounds right to say it. If it's in the application, we do it. And since we've had our license, our application has been amended 5 times because we continually improve and find ways to be safer, more efficient, and better at what we do. So that requires us to update our SOPs.
Excellent. Standard operating procedures. So you're not a big conglomerate. I guess there wasn't like 100 people in a boardroom coming up with. You said there is 4 people. That's pretty fair. 4 people working every day for 6 months on your application, and that seems fair to me. It's just, you don't appear to be much of a boogeyman. One of the questions a lot of people, and we had it on the show as these companies were starting up, was, where did you get your marijuana strains from? If you're prepared to give us an answer to that.
Oh, certainly. I mean, my designated grower. I had gone to a number of seed banks and I had purchased seeds. And I'd also worked with other designated growers that I had met.
We'll have to repeat that question.
I'm not sure what's happening. It just completely froze.
All right, well, hopefully we'll get them back.
RCMP doesn't like... I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't kid on that. But we'll get them right back on the line. Because now, I mean, okay, so the first part is you guys have now seen what Peace Naturals is about. Anybody really, like... They're evil, right? Okay. So we'll get them back on the line, and we'll start talking about strains. He said just before he lost him, he was a designated grower. So, I mean, we're going to start on that.
I don't know if he said he was. I think he said he got some seeds through a designated grower he knows.
All right. Well, Mark's coming up here. He'll know stuff.
Or he got strains somehow.
He got strains from the seed bank, so...
Let's get this back on. Skype is always interesting. Technology.
Hey, we're doing real good. Mark's here.
You got him back up.
All right.
But we can get Mark up, too. We had a few people ask questions in the chat.
But here's the question about, we'll have to start over. Where did your company get your marijuana strains from?
So myself as a designated grower, I had purchased seeds from some seed banks, as well as gotten some cuttings from other designated growers. And Kenneth Langford, who is our chief agronomist, had quite a variety of varieties to him. And Dr. Hudson, who has joined us, was part of the genome research project. So he's part of the team, along with Dr. Miles, that they're the first group that has sequenced all of the genes in a cannabis plant, and it was Purple Kush that they sequenced. Now they're on to doing hundreds more, but there were a lot of varieties available to us as a result of legally obtaining those seeds.
Mark, go ahead, ask a question.
I just want to know, do you medicate yourself personally?
Fair question. I am a patient, so I do. I'm the second registered patient of Peace Naturals. I have arthritis, and I really truly do suffer if I don't have cannabis as a medicine for anti-inflammatory purposes.
Hey, that's your...
Light it up.
Yeah, so see, again...
the biggest question in the chat room has been, is there a government-mandated limit or internally on anything over 20%, or do you plan to offer strains that are higher than the 19.5 that you currently have?
Ooh, that's a good question. And they're talking, what, THC level there? So
correct.
So you registering your plants at 19.5% THC?
Well, we have a variety that's 19.5%. We know we're going to have varieties. I shouldn't say no. We're highly confident next week we're going to be able to demonstrate that we have varieties that are higher than 19.5%, but we're not very confident that these are commercially viable varieties. And I don't mean high return, make a lot of money. but I'm talking about, making sure we have a phenotype consistency where we can have 100 of these plants in a room. Out of these plants, we have, say there's 20 of them that we're testing. 10 of them, they don't even resemble each other. Yet the medicine values are very high. But how are we, if those plants all test differently, yet they're all favorable, where do we start? So it's a long process to get to sustainable and consistent. So,
so you can consistently produce a plant at 19.5% is what you can do?
Currently, we can do that consistently. We have intentions of doing higher. We have intentions of doing lower. And we have the capabilities to do so. But we are striving for consistency. We want to be able to offer people, when they find what they like, to always have it there, or at a very reasonable facsimile to what they've always had, both in dryness, both in metabolite value, odor, terpene content. We want to be consistent.
Right. How strict is Health Canada with you when it comes to labeling of the consistency? Does it always have to be the same strain, has to be 19.5 every time, or do you adjust the label if it suddenly comes in at 17.5? Like, what happens?
We have to identify it as it is. So if today Chrome in our website, say for example, is 17.5% THC, and we're growing Chrome after the next analysis comes in at 18.3%, it must say 18.3%. It must be exactly reported as it is. Excellent.
So, what type of how do you determine the THC and the flat? What type of test are you throwing at that plant?
We use gas chromophotography. It's our preferred method. There's a couple of reasons why. Their HPLC is also very good testing, but you don't get to test the acids as well. And we're very interested in determining the acid values both in THC, so the THC acid, as well as the CBD and the CBD acid. So not necessarily, it's not better or worse, but based on our work with Dr. Hudson and his preferred methodologies, those are the ones that we are using.
That's excellent. Jamie, you have a question?
Yeah, I haven't been on the website, so maybe it's there. What are the CBD levels? It's medical marijuana. THC's, I want to know, but what is the CBD levels?
Fair question.
On all of our varieties, the CBD levels are there. Most of them are low, except for Nina, where we essentially have a 1-to-1. But we're not able to list the CBDA values. And it's interesting because CBDs have gotten so in vogue with research.
My sentiment exactly there. Hold on. My sentiment exactly. CBD's in vogue. But continue now.
But
you have. There's someone said there's no. Do you have sativas?
Yes, of course.
Of course. So there you go. How many clients are you currently helping right now?
Currently, we have exactly 307 registered, validated, verified clients. We have over 1,000 clients that are registered with us. So people that have access to our website, have access to our varieties. But that, until you have a medical document that's validated with us, you don't get access to inventory and automated replenishment and other things, services that we provide. But of the 1,000 people that are out there, 307 have provided us a medical document or their ATP, and we are able to ship to and sell to them.
Are you growing faster than you expected then?
No, no.
Okay.
This is not. This is what we expected.
Okay.
Other people, Alan Young, for example, was fearful of how we would be able to get clients, but we recognize it's not a function of demand, but if we make it easy for people and we make it a pleasant experience for people, don't objectify them, and provide very good cannabis at a great value, there's really no reason for people not to come.
Well,
what about the other side of that too? Is there any fear that it would be like Colorado and you'd sell out in a week that you thought would be your month's supply or anything like that?
Good question.
Not doing it. I won't take on the clients. We'll say no to people before we let them down. So if you were to call us in 2 weeks, and we know we can't go beyond 700 clients based on an average of X amount of grams a day, knowing our current output consistently, not what we can grow into and do more or buy from other people, but what we know we can provide. That's our commitment. We can't take on more to boast and say we have this many clients and let people down. It's not acceptable.
That's wonderful. And one of the biggest fears out there for a lot of people is pricing. Are you aware that the clientele is people who are disabled traditionally, statistically show make about 50% less than able-bodied people? You are helping people who are, or you are selling a product to people who are primarily disabled, who have limited funds, or if they are employed at, their income is 50% or less than an able-bodied person. So the sick, unfortunately, in our country and in society generally have less income. How are you aware of that situation?
Well, I didn't go into this blind. I spent a lot of time with clients. I spent a lot of time with designated grower community and met a lot of the people who had licenses to grow. And listen, there's many sides to this coin, and I understand a great deal of the suffering that MMAR patients that are no longer allowed to either grow for themselves or have somebody grow for them. And it's not a function of not just having the medicine, but it's a real shift in life and lifestyle.
Yeah.
That being said, I've always, go back to projections that when I thought about this, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, it was never $10 a gram. It was never $8 a gram. We sell for $6 a gram, and if you are if you have a disability, we will sell you 1 gram a day at $3 a gram. And it's we can't afford to do more than that. We have to pay people. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. You can imagine selling every day very good quality cannabis that we have to test, and every test costs us a lot of money. We have security. We have to pay people, and I don't mean pay people, but we have to have gloves there and have your lab coats washed, and you have to have a lot of change facilities, and it's ongoing costs every day. So selling at $6 a gram, I assure you that it's not even a reasonable rate of return, but right. I think it's very fair. And one of the goals we had in getting out to be first or in the first cohort.
Right.
We really wanted to influence pricing. We wanted to say medicinal cannabis should be great value. So coming out there at $6 a gram is a challenge to the industry. Get it right, be compassionate to people, and help people.
Well, that does seem, like in the competitive market that we are in. Uruguay is at $1, but the question, I agree. I'm just saying, someone just said, well, they're a third world country and whatnot, but one of the ways
but
I
they're
have a question.
Spreading seeds. They're taking seeds and chucking them in fields. Let's go to Dauphin, Manitoba, and take.
So one of the questions on how to bring the pricing down, or how you approach that, is there solar panels on your facility? I see. Is there
the solar panels on the property? When we bought this property, the landlord or the gentleman we bought the property from had one of the microfit contracts from the Ontario government. So it's a net revenue generator for us, but it doesn't provide any backup power. We have a separate diesel generator for backup power if we were to lose. We haven't, thank goodness. But no, unfortunately, the solar panels aren't able to fire up the facility.
Oh, because I saw them on there. I was like, are they growing it with those solar panels? So they're not there to fire up the facility. That's unfortunate.
No, we're not that efficient yet. But what we are doing is we are converting from using electricity to natural gas. And we're able to use natural gas because there happens to be a major pipeline very close to us. And we're able to use the CO2 that's generated as a byproduct and the heat as a byproduct and use them for energy and food for our production in the plants. And again, it's not a function of necessarily green, but a healthier way to grow plants and rely less on electricity.
Right. We're both in the. I have a question. We're both in the same Toronto Star article. We had the same photographer. He came over to my house and he said he had to gown up like he was like had to go. It was, your grow room essentially is you have to. There's surgical attire essentially to go into this facility. And you're also growing hydroponically. Is that correct?
Yeah, we grow hydroponically. That's why we can't be organic in Canada. Everything we do is organic, but hydroponics aren't authorized in Canada. We do a lot of our R&D within soil, just because as Daryl's preferred methodology. But Kenneth, as our lead agronomist, is very familiar with hydroponics. We, being on a farm, essentially have very clean and an abundance of fresh water that doesn't cost us money. We scrub the water, but it's free of chemicals. We don't have to have chlorine in that, and so we do produce very healthy plants at somewhat of an accelerated rate using hydroponics.
Okay. Yeah. So, and you also the person who's in charge of this grow has a PhD. I noticed that, and he plays in a rock band. Who is this fellow?
Dr. Hudson. He's a really cool guy.
We wanted him on the show too at some point. We have played his music video here. It's on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it. I've listened to him. I've listened to his roar. Doc's an amazing guy. His story is a very interesting one. He's a keener. He recognized early on in his life that cannabis was something that he really wanted to influence. He wanted to be part of. He wanted to be part of his life. He continued research. He stayed in school. He didn't have a lot of breaks, and he really worked very hard. And our meeting was a great one. And quite literally, I met the guy and I followed him home because I truly hadn't seen a beautiful mind like that in cannabis, and a really good guy. And him and Ken together, I described to somebody else today, but it truly is science and art meeting in, I think, the perfect place. We give them a lot of wiggle room to experiment, but together they've found ways. When you can't use Asmax or other chemicals to control bugs that are naturally going to be, no matter how clean you keep your facility, no matter if you wear surgical equipment or change your shoes, bugs are attracted to plants. And these two guys together figured out a combination of pepper oils and other elements that we have a bug-free facility, thank goodness, and they've done an amazing job collaborating.
What about ladybugs?
Yep, ladybug, predator bugs if you had to.
Yeah, we've thought about the bug and then the spider and then all the things that will eat each other, and before you know, we'll have lions in there. So we decided we had to go with pepper
just
oils
ladybugs.
instead.
Yeah.
Ladybugs.
Any questions, Goodwin, that we might have missed? We talked about their facility.
I was curious a second ago as to if there's any government regulations in that big stack of standards you guys were talking about earlier that are maybe unreasonable or overwhelming to you. That now that you've been in this a little while, is there one area that you could say that they're mandating us to have 5 security or to do this one thing every hour instead of we could easily do it once a week? Or I'm not sure what it could be. I wonder if you know anything that's causing
overly burdensome,
and then therefore it also applies to the costs of your business and the price.
Oh,
of your
I like
products.
I like that additive too, and how it applies to the overall cost.
Honestly, there's nothing that I think is onerous. It's really a function of safety, and there has to be real sustainable, repeatable procedures. So the security, this is classified as a big-time narcotic. So of course you have to have certain degrees of security, and we didn't find that overwhelming. It could be a barrier to entry. It's a fair amount of money. But as far as what you do to the plants on a daily basis and how often you must do things, they don't regulate any of that. You tell them what you're going to do, and as long as you do what you're going to do, they have every reason to approve you. You describe safe methods, repeatable methods to produce a continuous, similar product. So I think the onus is upon the operator to describe what you're going to do and just do what you say you're going to do. The costs are in the testing. There aren't enough labs out there that are accredited, so there's a very heavy cost right now. But I don't think that cost even exists in a year. I mean, we have our own machinery. We still have to validate with a third party. But I think in a year from now, there will be enough labs out there that it'll cost 10% of what it costs us today to test our products.
Excellent. This was a great interview. You explained your company very thoughtfully, you approached us very openly. I think you answered all our questions. It's $6, and then you talk about pricing. You were very fair on the pricing questions. You answered all our good questions about strains. Aaron's coming up. Do you have a question, Aaron, that no? Do you have something? There you go.
I was just going to comment. We had one of your clients, or one of them came on and showed a sample a few weeks back on the show, and it's just exciting to see what you're offering, and hearing it firsthand from you has got us even more to look forward to.
Yeah, it's great to get this personal touch to this scary new industry that everyone thinks is unsure about. So I want to thank you, too, for coming on the show. This is great.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mark. We greatly appreciate your time. That was
No,
excellent.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a fine line. We don't want to. We're not big pharma. We want to encourage the industry to grow. Recognize, spent a lot of time with Don Kramer. Alan Young is a dear friend. Grew up with Paul Burstein. We aren't evil. We're just trying to find a way to create something that's truly sustainable. And our hope as a company and the people that we have around us and the way our community has supported us, we're going to create some jobs. We have created jobs. We're going to create more jobs. We can do things in a very Canadian way, which is very fair. Do best of. Look for export, where we can create some more revenue for our business. Be a good, tax-paying company and providing excellent quality medicine. And there's no reason we can't do that. And we can't set the standard for an industry within Canada, and that's our goal.
We have one. Sean's a longtime medical marijuana patient. He knows about growing. You got one question?
Yeah, I wondered, considering that you're able to provide this legally through the MMPR, what's your position on just outright legalization? Like, anybody should be able to grow. Like, there shouldn't actually be necessarily a medical program that everyone should
How about
have
we do this? You can answer that next time on the show.
It'd be my pleasure. You know what? There will be an evolution. Whatever that evolution is, I think there'll always be a place for somebody like us. That being said, if it does go to full, everybody can do what they want, then, it'll be an interesting time, and we'll also be part of that group. So we don't damn anybody, and we'll talk more about it next time you host us.
Excellent. Have a good night, Mark.
Take care. Thanks, Matt. Bye, everybody.
Bye. There you go.